Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a Christmas amaryllis. Am I saying that right? Amaryllis flower?
Amarillo?
Amaryllis.
Amaryllis?
All right. Okay. One of the above. We're going to be painting a flower tonight. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll show you step by step how to do it as I go. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
Man in chat tonight, so if you've got questions, you can ask those, and let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm using a 10 by 10 inch canvas today. This is the Fredrix Mixed Media Canvas. Nope, not mixed media at all. This one's the, I use that one so much that I'm saying that wrong. 12 ounce Dixie. So this is the little heavier weight canvas here. I usually do my large flower series on this size. I have more than a dozen. I don't know how many I have yet, but anyhow, we've done a lot in this series, and they've all been on this size, so that if you wanted to, you could, well, you know, you obviously can do them on whatever size you want, but mine are on 10 by 10s. All right, I have painted it. Oh, I'm in a weird mood tonight. Okay. I've painted it with a very light coat of a Quinacridone Magenta. That's why it looks pink. It's just transparent. I put it, just a tiny little dab of it and a little bit of glazing medium, and used paper towel to kind of wipe it on, just to give us a little background color for our flower. And since it's red, it'll kind of shine through the red and be really pretty. We'll be painting the background black, but you can change that if you don't like the black. Let's go over our colors. We're kind of a limited palette. What's going on?
Somebody was hearing echo, so I was making sure it's not us. Sorry.
Okay. Carbon black, burnt sienna, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red medium, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, unbleached titanium, titanium white, and gloss glazing liquid. So no echo. Everything's good. All right.
On their side.
On their side. Got it. All right. I realized after I created the reference photo that I photoshopped 2 flowers in on top of 1 flower petal, so there's more petals on that than there's supposed to be. There's supposed to be 6, 3 of these and 3 behind. So let me show you how to draw the flower. It's left over from my bonus video this weekend. I'll show you that in a minute. All right, so very simple. I just kind of start figuring out where I want my center of my flower, and all of the petals are going to attach here in the center, and it's kind of like a little star that happens here, like you can kind of make a 3-prong star and then 3 more in between, and out of that kind of split the difference, and that's where this petal will go, and you can kind of put it sort of wherever you want here, and then 1 in here. And this dark part is kind of the seam that sort of splits the middle, so it's not the edge of the flower petal. They're kind of rounded off if they're curved away from us, so if you want to make it look like it's a little bit more curved away, you can round off that tip. So do kind of 3 that are sort of generally evenly spaced. They don't have to be perfectly evenly spaced, but something like that. And then we'll do 3 more that are the back petals. And these ones are a little bit wider. These are actually leaves that are colored, I believe, if I write it right. So kind of like the points that I do, you know, their leaves are colored. So something like that. And then we'll have the dark center kind of coming out, and then we'll have our little stem, the little, whatever these are, stamen, coming out from there, almost like a hibiscus or something like that. All right, so that's our basic drawing. I've already drawn mine with chalk, just regular old school chalk, the good Hagoromo. It's in my Amazon link.
That's not just
the good
regular
stuff.
school- that's not
yeah,
regular school
it's
chalk.
like dustless. It's really good, good stuff.
Lights are on fire over there.
Yeah. Okay, I did not pull out any brushes. I am not prepared. I
Use
sat here
this
for
one?
like half an hour waiting for the video to start and did not get out any brushes.
You painted your shirt.
Yeah, I did. Painted my shirt, so I had to change, had a wardrobe change already because I already we just had an interesting, yeah, lead into the show today. All right, let me get just a couple more brushes here. All right, so I'll want kind of a filbert probably. I'm going to grab a long flat, and then I'll just use a flat for the background too. So I've got a, you know, whatever works for you, angle flat. But I like using the filbert for the flower petals. All right, so I'm going to start there. We're going to just jump right in. I'm going to kind of darken up this center a little bit and start to kind of build out my petals. So with red, I always, one of my favorite colors to add to red to make it dark is black. So it just does a really good job of it. So I'm going to use kind of probably equal parts magenta and cadmium red medium, and then use my black to darken that up. And if it goes too kind of like brick red and you don't want that color, then you can add a little bit of the magenta to spice it up and make it a little bit more kind of a purpley or burgundy kind of red. So that looks pretty good. It's going to look really dark here at first, but I'm just going to kind of pull it out in that star shape that I was mentioning, kind of down the middle of my petals there to begin with. And just get it really nice and dark right down the middle. And kind of where they are overlapping, right here, I'm going to kind of build out the edges of those two petals there a little bit with a little bit of a shadow. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do there. I'm going to wipe that out. That'll give us a good like focal point center to start with.
And your background color is what again?
Quinacridone Magenta, mostly just like a little bit of magenta and mostly glaze, and just paper towel and kind of rubbed it on transparent. Okay. So it's not a thick layer of it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so a little bit of white just to kind of make it a little bit more opaque. And then I'm going to get both of those reds again. I like both of them together. They make kind of a really pretty red. Ooh, what is that? You don't belong in there. I also want to say welcome. Hey, hi. Glad you guys are joining us.
What's up?
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Hope you're having a good Christmas
season.
Christmas season? Yep. It's not Christmas yet, but yeah. That's
rolling.
You know what I mean?
I'm rolling through my Lego advent calendar, so
right.
things are all good.
We are almost done with our lessons. This will be our last one of 2023.
YouTube.
For YouTube, yeah. And I've got one more lesson for my patrons, and then we'll be taking a couple weeks off. So that'll be nice to have a little bit of a break. All right, so I'm just kind of following the edge of the petal here. I'm not going all the way to the end, and I'm kind of using the corner, the long width of the brush, or the edge of the brush, I mean, to create little streaks. And along these ones that are behind, I'm kind of doing, you know, a solid color there, but then as it comes out towards the tip, I'm just sort of pulling it and lifting so that I'm getting this broken edge that I like to do with flowers. And I can pull back the opposite way into the dark area. So There we go. This is going to come together real quick. This one is real easy because it's basically one color. You know, you've got red and white and black. So you're not going to have to do a lot of tricky blending or anything like that.
That's 3 colors.
Well, the black and white are not considered colors.
Do you want to go out and come back in?
No.
Okay. Black and white are not considered colors.
No. On the color wheel, you know.
Gotcha.
They influence, you know, they change the value of the colors, but they're not a color in of itself. They have all the colors or none of the colors, I guess.
Right, yeah.
But when it comes to, you know, things like this.
You art types.
You don't.
You're so snobby.
Well, if you say you're using 3 colors, those 2 don't count. You know, like if I say I'm doing a 3-color painting, I'm not consider them a color.
That sounds like a
Those
cheat
are kind of
code.
a given.
That's a cheat code right there.
It's just a...
I guess I never realized that.
All right, and then I'm trying to think if I want to use this. I feel like this is going to be too big, so I think I might. Let me go ahead and try this smaller flat. I'm not sure if it's going to do the job, but we'll try. And I can grab a smaller Filbert if I need to. Actually, no, I think I am going to use a, if I can find it. I've got a small, where are you? Well, I've got a little one of this brand here somewhere. There it is. Hiding right there. So it's a Dakota Filbert number 2. So it's just a little bit smaller, rounded. But a flat would work. It's just going to give me a little bit easier time of blending the soft edges on the flower. Okay. So let's get white. And I'm going to get a little bit of my red. Ooh, that dried already. That is drying really fast. And a little bit of blue. I'm just going to use a little touch of blue in my white areas. That'll, and maybe a tiny bit of the burnt sienna too. That'll give it kind of a gray, but it's like a colorful gray. It's not just black with it. Right, so let's use that. And I really didn't want to do that. Let's start to kind of just lightly sketch in these little lines that I'm seeing happening along the edge, and that's why I didn't go all the way to the edge with the red, because I wanted to have some room to add this whitish area. And then I'm going to get a little bit of that red and bring it back up the middle. And kind of blend the 2 together a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, a little bit more of that white. And kind of like that, okay? Just little dippy dabs, kind of pointing it towards the center. So these ones around the sides here are going to start to point toward the center, but all of these should kind of, you should start to act like they're gonna go right. If you did a straight line, it would go to the middle there. And get a little bit more of the burnt sienna over here. A little bit more of the blue and do a little bit darker gray on some of these towards the edge of the petal. And that edge is going to be kind of solid, so I don't want that irregular edge along right there. I'm going to get a little bit of it and go along this edge too with a little bit of that darker color. All right. Wipe that out and get some of the lighter color. Okay, something like that. It's my dog in the background. He's like, "Are we doing this again?" He's becoming an old man. He's just like started all of a sudden. He grumbles all the time, groaning and grumbling.
I don't know what that's like.
Like that, just all the time.
So do we have any Amaryllis in our garden?
We don't.
Interesting.
I don't think I've ever bought one.
It's a
They usually
bulb.
sell them around the time that you see them, you know, with the poinsettias and stuff around this time of year. They'll be out. Just gonna define that edge of the flower, get some of that darker color and kind of use it sort of the flower is kind of curving under a little bit, and then kind of just creating those lines. Okay. Some of these have more of the white than others. So maybe bring some of this more white in on some of these petals. And these come in all kinds of different colors too. I've seen several different, mostly, well, I say all kinds. Most of them I see are either white or a version of red or pink or salmon. So, but I like this one that had the kind of like a little bit of white variegation in it. It's pretty. So, going back over with a little bit more of the brighter white. My pink is kind of bleeding through in places, which is okay, but where I want it a little bit brighter, I need to make sure I get good coverage there. All right. And then after I do this, I think I'll paint my background black, let that dry, because then we'll be able to see kind of the edges and what we want to do with the edges. Can be kind of hard to tell when you have a light colored background like this and a light colored edge of your petal. You can't really see it very well. It's not very well defined. Uh-oh. Turn my phone off.
Very unprofessional.
My kids text me all the time during my shows.
You know, so my phone doesn't go off. They don't text me.
It's just funny. It's like, oh yeah, Mama has a job. Oh, I forgot.
It's like one
She has
day
a
a week and I
job.
gotta text you.
In quotes. What'd you say?
I said you gotta schedule one day a week
Right.
for a few hours
Right. And they,
for a live stream, and they text you then.
it's been the same for
I
like
know. For
6 years,
yep.
and they still forget.
All right, I'm over here organizing a art retreat to Australia, so you just
Really?
keep painting. Yeah.
As long as I don't have to stand up too much.
Well, I figure we can, when we fly over, we'll have a stay in Hawaii too.
Ah, nice.
Kind of break up the trip, the flight.
Yeah. All right, so just a little bit dark along the edge there, and then go a little bit crisper with the lines here on this one. Just using the edge of the brush to get some nice defined lines there. We'll be adding more details to these, but so far so good. Getting more white here. And then I'm thinking that the light's hitting here, so I might put a little bit more light on these ones that are at the very top. Who knows? Really doesn't. With this kind of one where we just need to make sure we get a good dark in the center, and then make sure we're getting some shadowing on our leaves to create a little bit of fluidity. So we'll add some darker places, darker creases in our petals, so that they look they don't look flat. All right. So far, so good.
Looking good.
Thanks.
And the painting too. Hold on, let me try that again with my drum.
Your microphone was on.
With my drum tips.
Why is that a joke?
What, the painting looking good?
All right.
That was a lose-lose on my side.
No way to answer that.
No, I kind of
Boxed you into a corner there.
Yeah. Oh well.
Very sweet. All right. And if your paint is going on too, you're getting too much of the canvas showing through, and you want a little smoother line, then just add some water to your paint and it'll go out on. I think a lot of times, when people leave me comments saying, I use so much more paint than you, I think the number one issue there is probably water. You're not adding enough water to your paint. Because if your paint gets dry on your brush starts to lose moisture as you paint. Your paint's not going to add moisture to it much or enough to keep you going for very long. Your brush kind of just wicks away all the moisture into itself to keep itself kind of working properly, and then you end up with the canvas sucking away moisture too, and after a while you will end up just needing more and more paint to try to pull moisture back into your brush, but the paint is not going to be where you need to get the moisture from. You just need to get water every now and then, just a little dip into the water, and then work that into your paint, and then that way it will stay workable and you can go much longer without having to clean out your brush totally and start over. And you won't have to keep adding more and more paint to your brush either. Your paint will go farther if you add a little bit of water to it. That was the point I was trying to make. I got back around to it. Okay, so there we go. So that's our good first start, our first layer here. And I'm going to go ahead and get a large flat. You can get an angle brush too. I think this flat will get into this. This is not too complicated. Sometimes I like to use an angle brush for this, but I think it'll be fine. Get a little bit of water, work that in. And also, I got a question this week about, that they were getting a lot of ridges in their paint. So let me show you the different ways of loading your brush and how you should not load your brush unless you want ridges. So if you want to get a bunch of ridges, you scoop up paint from the puddle in the middle and then just take it straight onto the canvas. I'm not even going to, well, you can see how thick that paint is, and you're going to end up just having to like push it around for ages to get it all worked in. So I'm going to squeegee off that and see if I can pull some of that off and squeegee it off again. Okay, so what you want to do, push that all back where it's supposed to be, is just pull a little bit from the corner. Take it to a clean spot and press down hard on your brush to work it in side to side. Get a little bit of water, add that to the paint, turning it side to side over, flip it over until you have a decent amount of paint on there, but it's not overloaded. It's not super globbed on there. And then when you go to the canvas, you're not going to get a ton of thick paint in the middle that you have to smooth out. You just control it before you even get to the canvas. Get a little bit more. I'm just going to pick up some of that, bring it over to my working pile. And then as I pick up more paint, I may not have to, my brush is already loaded, so I'm not going to have to press it down as hard, but I may want to add a little bit of water if I run out of a lot of paint, Just continue to make sure that I'm kind of pressing it down, and there might be a little extra here, but it's not going to be on the tip of the brush here, and that's where I am going to be laying it down on the canvas. The paint that's back here will just kind of help that go a little bit farther. So we'll be able to make a longer line and flip it over. Keep on going. And then if I need to get to this, I can go to a clean spot and just kind of press it down, and then I can keep going. All right. So that's how you properly load your brush and control the amount of water that's on it as well. Get the right amount of water. No, don't dunk your brush in there, because then the water gets up in here and then it'll flood onto the canvas or into your paint at unexpected times. It kind of gets trapped up in there, and you don't want that either. So just a little bit of paint on the very kind of dunk it halfway, and after a while you'll get in the habit of doing that properly. And you don't I don't wring it against the side of the cup either. That's what the paper towel's for. So if I feel like I got too much water on it, or I want to wipe off some paint, I can do it on my paper towel. But I don't want to get it on here, because then I'm going to end up with the more you do that, then you're going to just be picking up the color that's on that edge. I mean, it's not like I haven't ever done it, but I don't get into the habit of doing that. Occasionally I might do it, but that's not really a good habit to form either. Might be, if you're a watercolor artist, you may, and then are going to acrylics, you may have that habit from watercolor, because I think that's kind of something that you do with watercolor, maybe to help regulate the amount of water in the brush. But I don't know if that's true or not. I just feel like I've seen that. I don't do watercolor enough to know. I dabble. I enjoy it, but I I'm trying to learn it enough to actually be confident, like teaching it, but it's going to be a long while before that happens. It's not an easy medium to master, and I don't have time to do it enough to. I just do it for fun. I know acrylics, and that's good enough. And don't even get me started on oils. All right, so picking up a little bit more paint, taking it over to my spot here, always picking it up from the side. That does two things. It regulates the amount of paint you're picking up, so you're not getting too much paint globbed onto your brush, but it also protects this back side of the paint. You can see I've done it with the reds here too. Protects the paint underneath the glob, and you're not introducing air into that dollop of paint there, so that the air is what'll dry out your paint faster than anything. So you want to avoid adding any air to that paint for as long as you can. So just kind of work it from one side, and then you keep it sprayed down with water as you work. And the paint at the back and underneath that little thing, you might kind of, after a couple hours, it might get a skim of dried paint, or slightly dried paint over the top of it, but the paint underneath will still be wet because it hasn't been exposed to the air. Acrylics dry fast, but if this part is the only part that's drying, then the paint underneath it hasn't dried yet, and it'll take a long time for it to get dried under there.
So is one medium easier than the other when it comes to oil or acrylic?
They all have their kind of specialties. With oil, the colors are slightly more vibrant because the oil pigments allow more actual pigment to be added. So acrylics only have a certain amount of pigment that can be added before they lose their integrity. With oils, you can add a little bit more pigment to the colors, to the actual paint itself, because of the binder, and it just has to do with the binder. It's kind of a technical whatever. I read it a few years ago that explained it, but it's not an appreciable difference. Like, it's not something that you would be able to usually tell from the naked eye, especially certain kinds of paintings. But that technically is why it's considered the I just almost got myself. I got my apron and my hand. Yeah. It's considered, the king of fine art, painting. But acrylics come a close second, in my opinion. I think acrylics are the perfect gap between watercolor and oils because they can do a little bit of both. They can go really thick and heavy. You can get that thick impasto kind of thing. You can get the beautiful soft glazes of oils. You can get beautiful blends. It's a little bit trickier, but if you know how, you can get beautiful blends like oil painting. And then you can also do some of the kind of transparent layering that you can get with watercolors too. So you can go really transparent with glazes and get some beautiful soft watercolor-like effects with acrylics too. So you can kind of do a little bit of both, and they are obviously water soluble, so you get the benefit of the easy cleanup and no solvents and things like that. With watercolors, though, you can get these beautiful, I'll show you here, you get beautiful bleeds and watery effects that you can't get with anything else. They move in the water because their pigments are so fine. They just they float like water, you know. And you can get all these really cool bloom backs and use salt and get, you know, or alcohol and, you know, get all kinds of just really cool effects that that's difficult to achieve with other mediums. You know, you can mimic it, but watercolor, it's real easy to get, you know, just a really beautiful soft blend in no time. So I'll show you a project that I'm working on where I used it for the background here in a minute. But then with acrylics, like I said, you know, but acrylics, like for me, they're more inexpensive. So both of the other mediums, the cost is really high. So gouache too. Gouache is, I'm going to take this one down just a little bit. Gouache is like watercolor, only they're opaque. So it's like a matte watercolor that's opaque. They're usually the same binder or, you know, similar binder to watercolor binder. But yeah, they're, I don't know. They all have benefits. And there's some like water-based oils now that are supposed to work pretty well. And then they've also got the acrylics that are the golden open acrylics that are I don't know if that's where we started. I think it is, maybe. Or was it like that? Maybe like that. Like that? No, like that, I think. All right. Let me show you while I'm washing my hands off here. Well, I shouldn't touch it. Never mind. I'm going to wait until I wash my hands. Rethink that. I don't want to get my dirty hands on it. But so this is what I'm working on right now for a side project called Life Book. It's going to have a nest and it'll be a book with a bird and some butterflies and flowers and stuff. But the background I did in watercolor. And this is a watercolor canvas. Or you can use like an acrylic ground to make any canvas more like a watercolor paper. But you can't really get this kind of bleeding and these effects with acrylic, just plain acrylics. I've tried. It's really difficult to get them to do that soft blendy thing. So, all right, let's keep on going here. Now we can see where we're at, what we're doing here. I think it's good. I think this petal might be a little bit big. I might take that one down some more. We'll see. When you flip it around, you can kind of see if it looks even. That one looks a little bit big to me. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but I think I will, just while I'm thinking about it. I still have this black wet here on my brush. Okay, there we go. Just a tiny smidge. All right. So I'm going to go back. I think this one is working for me okay. I think I might want it a little bit wider though, just slightly. Okay, I'm going to get a 4, which is kind of in between these two. So probably a 4 is what I should have done, and then I wouldn't have had to dirty up 2 other brushes. Okay, so spray this all down again. Get some more of that, just plain red this time, I think. The cadmium red. And I thought about if I wanted kind of more of an orangey color, you know, like more of a fiery red, like cadmium red light or something like that, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to keep it kind of more of this sort of Christmassy, bright red, not too much orange. Sort of just straight down the middle red. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of this, if I've got any left, there we go, a little bit of that dark center color, and bring it up. And just kind of do some soft blends into that red that's wet. So I just kind of wet that whole area with that brighter cadmium red medium, and now I'm gonna kind of go over it with this darker color and add some streaks of the darker red in here, and kind of go in between the white that if I've got any white lines, kind of do that. Okay, that looks good. Get some magenta, add it to my red here. Maybe do this one with a little bit of magenta. Still got a little bit of that dark color on it, but not enough to make a difference here. I'm just going to paint in this one, most of that red area with that. Give it a second coat. Wipe my brush out, get a little bit of that darker color, and just kind of come back through and add. Got some little fuzzies that was drying right there, so I'm gonna have to redo my dark color. Maybe do like a mid-tone dark, not kind of closer to this one. Yeah, there we go. Just make sure I have that area kind of behind this petal here and here dark, where this one is crossing over in front of it. So I might go a little bit darker than I have it right now. There we go. And always just trying to keep those lines kind of going in the right direction out. Okay, that looks good. Nice and dark. Okay, so you can see the ones I've done and the ones that I haven't done yet. Just really adds a lot of depth to it to add this like extra layer of really intense dark right there. Don't go too far out with that initial layering, because it's going to be hard to cover up any of this dark, and you could probably wait, might have waited until I got my first layers on to do that dark area, but might have jumped the gun a little bit with it. But I think it's working out okay. I didn't go too far with it, so I think it's doing good, but it's definitely not going to cover very easily, so just be careful when you're doing that dark area at the very beginning not to go out too far with it. Gonna use a little bit of that red, and there's a little bit of red like right along the edge of these coming around here. Getting some unbleached titanium. Titanium white. Wiping that out. And I'm kind of putting that on a little thick right there, so I need to probably get a round brush and do some dotting of the red over this in some places.
So did you get my Christmas shopping done?
I think so.
Excellent. Is it some of the stuff that's under the tree right now?
One of your presents still hasn't gotten here yet.
Same.
I need to contact one of the companies, actually make sure it didn't go awry. I don't know where it is. Yeah, what'd you get me?
I got stuff.
You got stuff? Okay. Is it good? Am I going to like it?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Better than the Foreman grill. I'm going to get it something in my stocking this year, right? Mark showed me TikTok. The stockings are a sore spot in our house because there was too many Christmases where Mom got gypped on the stocking front. And
why is
I
that?
finally just kind of, this is a tip for those who, want a good relationship. Tell your guy what to do. If you want, like a stocking, just say, hey, give me stuff for my stocking because it'll save you a lot of grief. As long as he, listens and wants to make you happy, then
so how did
it works.
So how did
a lot better than just hoping that he does it and doesn't, and then being disappointed for years.
So how did Mark do last year?
Mark did great last year.
Oh, okay. All right.
We had a couple of years of bitter disappointment, and then we finally just had it out, and then everything's good. So.
In his defense, he didn't know what he wasn't doing. But
until the year when Mom had 0 in her stocking. Usually he'd get me a bag of candy and throw it in there and call that good. And I was like, okay, well, at least he tried. And then one year there was nothing, literally. And
everybody else has
just
stockings because that's what
full.
Angela does. Everybody else's.
I do everybody else's stocking.
I don't know why she doesn't get herself anything. It's so weird. I mean, while you're there, just grab something for yourself. Ditto. But I'm not the only one because there was a TikTok video where the guy was like, "Oh, Susie's got a stocking and Joey's got a stocking.
The dog had a stocking.
The dog has a stocking, and oh, is this an extra stocking? Oh no, that's my wife's.
It's Mommy's stocking." Yeah, been there. I feel you. I feel your pain. Yeah, he learned. I have to say, you have made a lot of gifting, blunders over the years, but you learn pretty quick
Like what?
You're pretty
What
good.
kind of blenders?
We're not just
Did you or didn't you not say that you wanted one of those?
I did say
Okay, there you go.
we were at Walmart one year, and it was just before our anniversary, and I was like, oh, I want to get one of those Foreman grills. Or something like that. You know, we should get one of those. Those look cool. Which, by the way, it's pretty much like the Instapot and, you know, air fryers and all the other appliances that look really cool. Fat appliances, you know. It was the fat appliance of the 90s. So we got one. I got one for my anniversary that year.
You're welcome.
I bought you a chore. No, it was fine. I just, you know, wasn't very romantic. I know lots of people that really like to cook that would have been super excited about it. I'm not one of them. Oh, poor Mark. You do listen. At least you were listening. You were like, she said she wanted it done. Check. At least, you know. Okay, using red here. Sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. I just went through and added more of the dark kind of between the petals there to darken them up, give it a little bit more depth. And just going back in now with the red. It's just kind of a matter of doing back and forth with these colors until you get them the right intensity that you want. So some of them you might want a little bit brighter red. I'm just using my reference. It's not like I'm not going exactly by the picture. I'm just kind of using it as a reference. I've got several pictures up on my computer here that I'm kind of using too to sort of give me the essence of the flower. That's what I'm going for here. So not any one picture is usually perfect. Very rarely will I find a picture that I'm like, that's the one. So if you don't find one that's exactly what you want, then just kind of take a little bit from this one, a little bit from that one. Just make sure you kind of watch your lighting source. Make sure that the light, you know, hitting the petals is the same or, you know, right on all of them. But it's kind of usually what I do. I'm going to put some red along the edge there. My Photoshop skills are not great, but they're getting better. Shouldn't keep you from trying at least. I'm learning digital drawing. That was my goal. Got an iPad a couple of years ago to do my traceables because the Procreate program, it makes it a lot easier. And decided to kind of learn how to do digital drawing, and now I'm kind of hooked on it. It's really fun. I like it. Sometimes I like my digital drawing more than my actual painting. Like that recent Christmas tree, which I did last week. I love it. I love the painting, but I kind of like the digital drawing a little bit better. It's softer in parts. Okay, just doing some little over dabs here. We're pretty close to being done with the petals. They come together pretty quick. I'm going to let that dry, all that red, and see how it dries, because it'll dry a little darker in places. And then I'll probably add one last layer of white here. But let me go ahead and kind of try to get in a little bit of that green that's in the center where the stamen come out. So it looks like it's kind of a little bit of a triangle shape, kind of right in the middle. something like that. And I've used the yellow and burnt umber, or I'm sorry, not burnt umber, the ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow to make a green there. Looks good. All right, I'm going to get a round. And I'm just going to dab on some white. I think that should be dry enough now. And this is going to go, this will be my brightest. I'm going to get a little bit of glaze just so it's not like super opaque everywhere. The glaze will just kind of help cut the intensity of it just slightly. And I'm just going to kind of dab it on over the top of my white areas and create lines and little, I'm going to zoom in there, honey, so people can see what I'm doing. So just using the tip of the brush to kind of create little texture in there. Don't have to do it everywhere, but just kind of where I want a little bit brighter area, right? And I'll probably do it with the red too, and I'm gonna do some streaks through here. So let me get a little bit of the red and add some white to it. Cadmium red, add some white to it. And kind of take some of these and continue them with the cadmium red. So got maybe a little bit darker, but definitely, you know, like a couple shades different. And then as I go in towards the center, I'm just going to get a little bit more of the regular red and just going to do some of the lines continuing in towards the center of the flower. Okay, so let's do this on all of them. I'll start with my darker area. Whoop, maybe not that. That was too light. It shouldn't be like super noticeable at first. Like it should kind of go over it, and I'm kind of skipping it. So I'm kind of dabbing it and skipping, so it's kind of got streaks, but it's not like a solid line. Let's go back to the whitish color. Fill this area in a little bit more with white. There we go. Leaving a little bit of a red border there. And then getting some of that darker reddish color. Just to kind of soften off the tips of the white bits as they come towards the center. Okay. white, a little bit of glaze, some water. With the round brush, if you want that paint to go on really smooth, you have to add water. Usually when you're using a, small round brush, it needs to be quite a bit thinner than the heavy body acrylics allow for. They're not very friendly for using a round brush or a liner. You have to add a lot of water to them. So like a fluid paint is more what you want. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in here and add some more bright white. That white that I added there was not quite as bright as I wanted in places. Okay. Still kind of turning. All right, there we go. So see how I'm just kind of skipping that brush, dabbing it, trying to keep this really random, and then just kind of blending over and trying to smooth out over the top of anything that I've already done, so that kind of blends in with that darker gray that I already painted on. Don't cover all of it up, but we're just adding kind of more of an intense value shift. And then here I need to shift it to a more neutral or more, pinky color. So I'm going to get that red that's been mixed with the white and just use it to kind of finish off these lines and let them kind of just lead in towards the center. Right? I'm going to put some longer streaks in this one too. All right, and then I'll probably glaze over the centers of these flowers with some of the darker red. It'll make any of these lines that are too dark will just disappear into the flower. So I'm going to go ahead and add some that are deliberately a little bit bright, and then we'll fix it later by glazing.
Which brush are you using right now?
This is the 4 round. Sorry, I don't think I mentioned it. Grabbed it and didn't say what I was using. Sorry.
I'm not saying that you did or didn't. I don't pay much attention, so.
True that. I'm going to go ahead and kind of start with this. I feel like this is kind of helping me define where I want the stripes to go. Right? And then, like I said, we'll go over these lines with glaze, and it'll darken them up and it'll disappear them down into that dark center. So it's like magic. It's a good little lesson on glazing here. detailed than some of the other ones. And depending on how I'm curving these lines, it will curve with the petals. So if I curve them this way, it'll make the petal look like it's folded over a little bit right here. So I'm going to do that right here. Just kind of where that is coming up in that area. A little bit. Okay, now I'm going to get the bright white and go over. And again, just kind of taper off or dab off that end, kind of blend it in a little bit just by kind of dabbing over it to kind of blend it in where you start. That white over the top of can be a little bit jarring looking if there's no other bright white on there. So I'm just kind of dab off that edge just a little bit to soften it. So it's looking good. We're only an hour in. We're almost done with the flower. It's amazing. But and not having to blend, it makes a big difference, you know. You can do it. It's just dabbing, and you can see what I did here. It's not, this one is not as hard as it looks, you know. It looks harder than it is. I think. I feel like. And the, you know, you don't have to go this far. You can leave this part out if this stresses you out. I don't feel like this is particularly hard, but the nice thing about, you know, painting, any kind of painting, is you make it your own. You know, you do as much as you can and call it good. You know, one of my followers this week was complaining that hers didn't look exactly like mine. But, you know, my encouragement to her was just that, it looks like yours. It, you know, I know when you're practicing something, you're trying to get it just right? You feel like the way that it would be perfect is to get it just like the example, but I think we also, there's room to embrace kind of your own unique style too, and I think if you kind of discount your own contribution, you do yourself a disservice, you know. So if you're finding that, you know, something is, and you know, I am the worst for being a perfectionist, so I know what that's like. I get it totally, and so I'm speaking to myself here too, you know. But I think that there is, I think that you should look for those things when you're painting and try to see if you can incorporate those into your own styles. And as you're doing these tutorials, find the things that are making it different than anybody else's, different than mine, and decide whether you want to get rid of that, you know, or not. You might want to just keep it if you're, you know, being a little bit more heavy-handed with your paint maybe, and getting, you know, thicker brush strokes and things like that. You might decide that that's something that you want to keep, and then you may just be a naturally more heavy-handed artist. And I've taught enough, you know, students to know there's some people that just really struggle with brush control as far as like how much paint they put on their brushes that are just really heavy-handed with it. And then there's others who I can barely get to put enough paint at all on their brush, you know. So everybody's got kind of a natural style that they're gifted with, I think. Just like your handwriting is going to be different than other people's, your style of painting is going to be different as you get sort of proficient with it and start to get a little bit more, you know, control over the brush and tackle these more difficult paintings. You know, I'd say embrace the things that make your paintings unique, that make them yours. Don't try to force yourself to adopt a style that is not natural to you. I mean, even, it's not like eventually you'll get proficient enough to do it however you want to, but as you're learning, it's always good to kind of keep that in mind. What kind of art do I like, but also what is my natural tendency here, and you can bite your head against the wall, or you can just embrace it and decide, okay, well, I may want to paint in a thicker, in a different style.
Well, like you said several times before, it's just like handwriting.
Right.
Everybody writes, but their handwriting is always different.
Yep.
I might think yours is nicer, but, unless
Yeah.
I practice and practice and practice to mimic it, there's nothing really wrong with mine.
Right.
Can't read it half the time, but,
You could get yours to look like mine over time if you tried hard enough, but, you it's just... All right, so we can do that a couple different times. I need to let this dry though before I can glaze, so I need to make sure that the part on there that is dry. Any of this that along the sides here that I just did. I'm not going to go this far, so I think it'll be okay to go ahead and glaze. And I think I'm going to glaze with I'm going to get the glazing medium, and I'm going to get magenta and a little bit of the red. Now the cadmium red is opaque, so it doesn't make a great glaze. Carbon black's also opaque, but not as opaque, or it doesn't cloud up as much as the cadmium will. So use a little bit more magenta in this mixture, and that'll make the color color of your glaze a little bit more transparent. You're trying for transparency here because we want those lighter colors that we put in there to shine through. And if we have it too opaque, that won't happen. So you can get the opacity of your paint to be more transparent by adding more water. That's number one. And then also by adding a medium that, a clear medium like this glazing medium here. And the glazing medium has a little bit of an extender in it too. So that's why I like to use it, because it gives me a little bit of time to work. Some glazing mediums don't have that extender, and they can dry almost immediately on contact. It makes it difficult to glaze. So that one's been glazed. And then, if I want it a little bit darker in the center, I can get a little bit more of my dark color and just kind of go in there with that. I'd start with the thicker color. And we're just trying to kind of tone in these stripes here. And I can go almost opaque over them where they first start. Okay. I'm only kind of doing this little section right here. I'm not going all the way to the tips on most of these. I don't want this darker color to be that far up. And I'm not trying to cover over my whole flower petal, just kind of the area where those lighter streaks that I did are coming down, like maybe right here. I want maybe a little bit more right in that area. It just kind of disappears it down into the flower a little bit. Okay, that looks good. And I'm going to go a little bit darker right in the center. Get my black and my magenta. And glaze. I want it pretty dark, but I just want right in the center to there be a little bit more intense color right here. And I'm not gonna bring it up very far. I'm just gonna kind of create that star that I started with.
Got a good question here.
Okay.
I'd like to know, where's the fine line between this is my style
Right.
and just not pushing yourself to make the painting more like the reference?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're talking about realism. Here, I'm kind of blending this out a little bit with the kind of mid-tone, that previous color. When you're talking about realism, you know, there's only so much style that you can add to it if you're gonna keep it real looking, you know. So that is one part of it, and I think that realism is probably the hardest style to make your own. But there are some, you know, artists that make that, even though they have a realistic style, still do have really distinct style too. And that's like Norman Rockwell is one that I, you know, off the top of my head. So kind of an illustrative style, but still it's like very distinctive. It's realistic to a point. It's not ultra realistic. But he's kind of one of my favorite artists. So I would say just kind of find what, you know, other artists that have a similar style. If you are really interested, I would get the book How to Steal Like an Artist. It's got some really great information in there, just kind of about how, you know, and I've talked about this before. There's no, very rarely in the art world is there something that's just like completely unique and new. You know, every artist from way back uses the other existing art that they've seen to gain inspiration, and they take a little bit here and a little bit there, and then they mash it up and make it their own. And so, you know, as artists, it's good to kind of keep our eyes open and kind of figure out what other artists we aspire to be like, and then kind of figure out what it is about that art that you like, you know. So you're not actually copying the artist at all. What you're doing is taking inspiration from them. Say, I like the colors that one artist used, and then I like the brush strokes that this artist uses, and I like the subjects that the other artists use, and I like, you know, the dark and light values that the other artist uses, and then, you know, mash it all up and make something new out of it. And then that's how you kind of over time kind of create your own style. I don't know at what point in my artistic journey my artwork became stylistically my own. But if you look at my website and the art, you know, the art on there, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it, like, as a whole, but like each individual painting. I'm not like spending time on this painting thinking, okay, I got to do this to make it look like my art or whatever. It just kind of happens naturally over time. And that's kind of what I was saying about like embracing your own instincts for art. I think that if you are constantly like trying to change what you are instinctively doing, then that does you a disservice over time. You won't ever kind of develop your own style. You're going to constantly be overthinking it and trying to adapt what you're naturally doing to some other artist's vision. So these tutorials are kind of a jumping off point, but they're not. I don't think that, and I don't see it most of the time when people are sharing these, that they've done. I always see some like uniqueness, and if you were to line up, 25 of these tutorials that people are going to paint and look at them side by side, they'd all have unique qualities to them. Even if they were trying to copy me, they're not going to. It's just the way they hold the brush is going to be different. Each artist is going to be contributing their own little bit of. I'm using cadmium red now just to go back over here one last little bit, and I'm going to kind of dab over the white areas and add just another little layer of color here. But each it's just so fun for me to see. I love when there's a tutorial that's really popular. The gnome last year was one that I shared in my I think I shared it in my blog, maybe. I know it was in my newsletter, but where there was just so many people that painted it. It was so obvious how uniquely everybody, brought their own little style to the table. It was really cool to see. And I love that. Even if you're trying to copy, you can't. It's just, so I would say don't fight it. Just embrace it. Embrace it that it's going to be different. It's going to be yours. It's going to be unique. It may not be exactly what you want at first, and that's okay too. Just keep on trying until you get it there. But you can't do it unless you're just painting. Just paint. Don't worry about the outcome. Be kind of more like childlike in it. Explore. That's kind of what I'm doing with my watercolors right now. They're pretty sucky, and that's okay because I know I'm learning, and so I've given myself permission to be pretty bad at it. I know, and that's why I'm not trying to teach it either, because I'm just like, I know I'm not ready to teach it because I'm not confident in it, and they're not turning out, kind of how I would want them to turn out. So until they do, I will wait and just keep being bad at it. But, I'm enjoying it. Enjoy the process. It's okay to be bad at something new that you're learning. I think as adults, we don't give ourselves permission to be bad at things anymore. We're like, if we try it and we're not good at it right away, we just decide not to pursue it anymore. As kids, I read an article actually about it. It was like, as kids, we expect kids to fail. So adults are constantly cheering them on in their failures and be like, it's okay, keep trying. You'll do it. You'll figure it out. But as adults, we don't do that to each other. We're just, if you fail at something and you share something on the internet or, artwork especially, and it doesn't do well, people make fun of it, or, you may, I don't know. So it's just, we give up before we've even given ourselves a chance. Right, getting some more of that white color here. I kind of went a little overboard with my red on this one, so I'm just going to kind of go back over it. I think I'm pretty happy with that. All right, let's go ahead and do our little center stamen here, whatever these are called. Stamen? Mm-hmm. I think this is pretty close to the color I want. I'll have to glaze it as it goes in the center, but I'm just going to use this color for the whole thing. It'll just be easier. And roll that to a point. I think I can get them thin enough with this brush, so if you need to, you can switch to a, well, I think I will. I take that back. I think I'm going to use that. It'll just make it easier to make sure that I get them thin. Won't have to be trying as hard. So I'm going to use a number 2 script liner. You can use a regular liner or a smaller liner, depending on what, but you need to make sure that you get this very thinned out so that it's easy to just rolls right off the brush. And I'm just using this kind of light red here, light pinky tone, and go into about halfway up. And I'm going to kind of just spread them out in a V formation. So kind of start right here, kind of right in there, leave a little bit of that green. And I'm just going to curve it down. And then do a little loop like that, okay? And then do another one. Maybe this one goes over here and ends up over here, like that. And then another one over here. Maybe this one curves over and ends a little bit more flat. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like 7. I don't know if that's standard or not, but I'm going to shoot for that. And we'll do this one. Maybe that one just kind of goes down. And then we'll do another one curving in here somewhere. Okay, there we go. That looks good. I think I'm gonna get some yellow and a little bit of the burnt sienna.
So there's stamen and pistil.
Stamen and pistil. Okay. Am I missing something? Okay, so 6 of that, and so one of these is, I'll do this one as the one that kind of, I can't show that image.
The pistil.
Yeah.
Can't show that image.
So this one will be like that. It kind of has a little different shape. Looks like it's opening up to,
He's got like 3 petals.
yeah, 3 little thingamabobs. And then I'm gonna do these kind of like a line. So I'm just gonna dab in a line. And they kind of point back towards the center, seems like, so that's what I'm gonna do. Have them all kind of pointing back towards the center or sort of flattish. And they're covered with pollen, so I'm just gonna dab it so they look fuzzy. Looks good. So this obviously needs to be thin, you know, darker as it goes down in. And that'll help when I glaze it. I will get it to that. I'm gonna make this one a white because that was a little bit more white in the picture that I was looking at. And then let's do a little bit darker, maybe get a little bit of the yellow, burnt sienna, and my magenta. Maybe a little bit of black. Kind of do a dark, almost like burnt umber color. Which I didn't add burnt umber because, like, I was like, literally, this would be the only place I would use it. So I'm just going to mix. You can kind of make your own with burnt sienna and black. I might add a little bit of blue to it too to make it kind of gray. And right where it attaches, kind of, I'm going to just dab a little bit of dark kind of toward the bottom of it. Sort of right in there. And also maybe pull it down onto the stem a little bit. A little bit of dark shadow on the stem. That'll kind of help make it look a little bit more realistic. Give it a little shadow right there. All these little things really add up, you know. It's like without it, it looks a little flat. But when you start adding these little details, it kind of like all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute. That looks like a... it's actually attached. And not some yellow blob floating in the middle of the air on our flower. So getting more of that green, I'm just going to go back over here and add a little bit brighter green on top. Just a little bit. And then we're still waiting for that to dry, to glaze it. So while that's waiting, I'm just going to get some white with this round brush here, this liner brush, and just find some spots to maybe do some final little, really bright. Just dig in underneath there where the paint is still wet. See how I'm kind of, this is all, you can almost knock on it. It's solid, you know, like I'm not getting any fresh paint from there, but if I move it,
And we didn't even
over.
add those sound effects either.
There's the wet paint. It's still gooey underneath. So that's what I was talking about when loading the brush earlier. The knocking noise. I know, that's fancy. You didn't know I could do that, did you? Hidden talent. Watch out, Jimmy Fallon. What are we watching? Michael Bublé and a show, or like a rerun from like 2011 or no 2021. What decade is it? Yeah, Jimmy Fallon was doing some.
They were doing
a Christmas song, but he was doing it as different characters. I was like, that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive. I've never been able to do that kind of thing. I can do a southern accent because we've lived here long enough. That's about all. And Mark grew up in New England. You would think he had, all of his family has a really thick New England accent, but you would never
know.
picked it up.
You would never know that I grew up there.
You would never know. No. Your sisters, especially both of them, have very thick accents.
Yeah. That is true.
All right. Still wet. So let's go ahead and use this white.
Do I need to come over there and blow on it?
Fitzy's just...
I can turn on this little fan.
She's still painting over there. That actually helps, probably. All right, I'm gonna use this white now, so I don't want that on here. Thank you. Right in the middle, I'm just gonna add a little bit of highlight of white on some of these. Try to kind of get it sort of in the middle of. So figure out this one's probably in front. Do it over that and leave that one darker. And then you can do a little bit on that, but do it on this side and leave that that little section right there a little bit darker. And any of these, like this one, maybe we can make this brighter with a little bit of bright white right here on this one. See, and that'll bring it forward, make it look like it's in front of the other ones. Let's get some bright cadmium yellow light now and add that on the top of our little dealies there. All right, let's see. I think that's dry. Let me get my burgundy glaze. I think I have a little bit of it left. And we're going to go really dark right here. And I'm going to add it over the green right here too. And then just pull it up. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of just the black right here. It should just be just barely light enough to tell that there's some stems going down in there. Okay. Do that as many times as you need to until you get it the darkness you want. Wait for it to dry in between, ideally. Okay, while that's drying, I'm gonna paint my sides. Might as well. I'm having to, yeah, exactly. I need to let that dry. That's not gonna be enough. I like to use why did that get all of my hand? I like to use the black, the fluid for the sides. Just goes on a little bit smoother. I got too much water in my brush. Almost done. And if you don't like this black, you know, by all means use a different color. I know some people don't prefer it. I think gray would be pretty, or I've used dark brown before, like burnt umber works really well for a more earthy tone. I do like the dark value behind it. I feel like it kind of makes the colors pop. So if you use a lighter color, to me they just tend to look a little bit washed out, but that's just my personal preference for this particular style of flower, you know, painting with the flowers, especially like on a wall when, you know, if you've got it on a light colored wall and then you have these dark canvases with all the different flowers, it really makes them stand out. They very dramatic looking. So, but again, it's your art, so you do what you like with it. Almost done. I don't know. That may not be enough. We'll see. And I usually paint the sides of my canvases black, even if I've painted the front, you know, with a color, you know, if the colors comes up to the edge. I just, when I have these thicker canvases, it looks like a frame almost when you hang it on the wall and you've got these sides, you know, cleanly painted black, which takes a little bit of trick. I'm not going to lie. One of the things that I like to do is take it and run it just like this along the edge. If you kind of use the sideways motion and not too much paint on the brush, you can kind of get a cleaner line. And if you do like this, you'll end up with a puddle of black paint where you don't want it. So make sure you don't ever kind of do this kind of motion with it, because wherever you're doing this, you're basically squeegeeing off that paint onto the front of the canvas, and yeah, that'll cause you problems. So all right, let me see, this is the front. There we go. Let's see, get the it wasn't dry enough right there. It was trying to lift it off completely. Okay.
Would you recommend doing other dark colors for the border, like instead of the black around the flower, doing like a deep dark green or something?
Mm-hmm. I was just talking about that.
Good job. I had a question about it, so I asked
Oh,
it.
okay. Yeah. I was just talking about that when I was
Okay.
doing this side. Just said, you know, you could do gray, you could do, I said, but I would use a darker color.
I feel like I got set up here. People know I don't listen.
They did. They set you up.
Yeah.
Go with a medium color here. I've kind of lifted off some of that color there on accident. So I'm just going back in with kind of a mid-tone instead of glazing it. Which is mixed with the white. So it's, instead of glazing, I'm creating a color that would be what I would expect to see with the glaze, which is kind of a, you know, mixture of the glaze color and white. So I'm doing right there. I'm gonna get some white, some red, and my white. And similar to what I did down here, just gonna use a little bit of that. Do some of that on one or two of them, the ones that I think maybe being in front. All right. Get some deeper red here. And then get my dark purpley, dark red. And just go over that little bit right there. So I just kind of painted in instead of glaze, because I got too impatient with my glaze and pulled it all off. what happens if you don't wait for your acrylics to dry, they will lift. And that's what happened to me when I tried to do another glaze over the top of a wet that was starting to dry. It just pulled off the glaze. So then it became kind of patchy. So that's why I painted it in. But you shouldn't have that problem if you just wait in between your layers of glaze to dry fully. Don't do what I just did. I just gave myself extra work. I'm going to get some of the unbleached titanium and my cadmium yellow and just create kind of a soft yellowy color. I just want to kind of top off those and kind of soften up that color. It seemed a little bit bright. Okay. And if you need to add any unbleached titanium, that kind of yellow color is probably going to be pretty on the stamen too, so I might add a little bit of that soft yellow in a couple places there. And then if you want to, you can add a little bit of it to your flower too. If you know, sometimes it's not a bad idea to have just a little touch of like another color in. You can even glaze with it. So I could take this color, which is kind of opaque, so I wouldn't do too much of this, but you could take it and add some glaze and just kind of glaze over some areas and add a little bit of that kind of yellowy tone to your reds in places. Just kind of gives another layer of interest. I wouldn't do too much because then your petals will start to look yellow, but a little bit will go a long way, and it'll actually kind of help kind of unify the painting a little bit, the color story on it. But I think we got it close. I'm pretty happy with it, I think. I think having that light pink to start with really helped because it made our reds brighter. If we'd started with the white, it just makes it a little bit easier to see what we're doing too. I think I might have overdone the dark in places, so it's harder to get it back when you go too dark. So I would maybe, instead of the way I started it, I might just do my reds first and then save the dark for one of the later layers, because that dark kind of takes over. You do want it really dark, but once it's down, it's really hard to cover. So like some areas like in here, I kind of wish that were a little bit brighter overall, and it's because I kind of went so dark that they're not wanting to go bright enough. So what you could do is add, if that happens to you, you add the white back into your red, let it dry, and then add your bright red over the top, and it'll correct it, you know. All right, I think that's good. I'm going to call that good. Thank you guys for watching. Oh, we got some jingle bells.
You got me jingle bells.
Nice.
Let's see if it's still in the queue here.
Let me sign this. I'm going to sign it with red.
If that's not the jingle bell.
Super chat
Nice.
from our friend Cindy.
Oh, thank you, Cindy.
And
Oh, wow.
says, thank you
So generous.
should be for another year of great paintings and good times.
Oh,
Thank you very much. That's
thank
awesome.
you. Super generous. That's awesome.
We got some very
Appreciate it.
generous people. And we have a question.
Okay. I use a little bit of this on my petals.
So, do you need to add a sealing coat after your painting is done?
Yes, if you're going to be, you know, showing it, if it's going to be hanging up in your house and stuff, yes. If you're storing it, I get lazy about it on the ones that I'm storing, but yes, if you're going to hang it in your house, you for sure need to to seal it. I have information about that in one of my videos in my beginner series. It's in the title of it. If you look up on the easiest way is to go to my website and look up varnish, and it'll show up. It should show up because it was in. This is actually working really good on this edge that I wanted a little bit brighter. I like it. Get yourself a pen. And usually I sign it over here. I like to kind of sign it up close to the flower. If you don't want it up close, you can sign it down there. But, ooh, that is spitting at me. Nope, not good. Hold on.
So it's the end of the year. Sorry if you're watching this in the future, but it's been another amazing year in 2023 with some of the best supporters and fans in the world.
Absolutely.
Such a great community.
I know. You
of
guys are great.
friends from all over that stop in and say hi each week and talk about food and sometimes watch some painting. And really encourage each other. You know, people.
I know.
You know, people are real people. They have real life problems, and it's great to see such a great community that support each other and are there for each other. So thank you again.
Yes. Yeah, I joke that the reason I call my job a job with the quotations is because I love it so much. You guys make it so much fun, and I don't feel like it's a job most days. You know, I gotta admit some days are better than others.
Like any other job.
Exactly, like any job. But man, you guys make it so fun for me. I really appreciate your comments. I read out all your comments. I really do. Even if I don't have the time to reply to every single one, you guys really keep us going with your kind comments and your painting along with us and getting to see your excitement about actually getting to paint these projects and learning to paint. I know it can be kind of scary and frustrating at times, but I'm rooting for you guys. And I just love that there's some of y'all that just like to hang out with us, and that's great too. You know, just enjoy getting to see the art getting made and aren't actually painting along for whatever reason, but just kind of still, oh yeah, I need to share that, don't I? I mentioned that. So this is our little bonus video that we did last weekend. Look at him. Look at his face. I may have said cute a few times. It was so fun. So that's our $5 level bonus video that we do for our patrons once a month. Yeah, there's over 60 of these bonus videos that you get access to when you sign up for that level. So they're usually 3 to 5 hour videos. I think this one was over 4 hours. And yeah, super cute. Just a little bit more in-depth techniques. You saw the little greenery that I had done. So, you know, just going over like more techniques and things that I don't necessarily have time for, you know, a deeper dive always, you know. But yeah, all kinds of really fun projects. The $10 level gets all of that plus the weekly video. So the $5 level is once a month, one long video, and then the $10 level gets an hour to 2 hours a week, and we work on a project until it's done. So it's a little bit longer, but it's broken up into smaller segments, and you really get to see, like, you know, some of these more technical, difficult projects. We go over all kinds of fun stuff. So,
You got some more come in.
what? Oh, sweet. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands while you guys are doing that. 'Cause I'm afraid I'm touching all these paintings and they get.
This one's from Gail.
Oh, thank you, Gail.
No message, but it describes it as a character jumping in the air joyfully.
saying, yippee.
Yippee. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yippee. Yay. That's what we're doing on the inside.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. Very sweet.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys for another great year. We'll have a little surprise for you. I think whatever the Tuesday is just before Christmas. So we won't be here next week. The week after that, we'll be releasing. Actually, we might next week. I don't know. But I'll be releasing one of my bonus videos. So stay tuned for that. We'll be releasing that for you guys to enjoy as a Christmas present for you. And then we'll be back in June. We've already got or not June. Whoa.
January.
Man, January. What month is it?
It is December.
Wow, how did my mind go all the way to June? That was scary. All right.
And
So January, we'll be back with another tutorial with some birds. Yeah, so that'll be fun. That's already scheduled, so you can put that on your calendars. And stay safe. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you guys then. Did you have something else, honey, you were going to?
somebody was asking how they could donate besides Super Chat. In the links down below, there's a PayPal and Venmo information.
Yes.
So you can do it that way also.
Yeah, our Venmo is Thankful Art, at Thankful Art. Just make sure it's spelled right.
So
It should
goes
say
to the right
Angela
people.
Anderson on there. But yeah.
All right.
Just Thankful Art, no anything else. I've had people donate to the wrong thing before, so I'm always scared when I say any of that. But thank you guys so much. Thank you for asking about donating. That's really sweet. We so appreciate you. And yeah, we'll be back next year. Thanks for watching. Bye.